I want to go ahead and put this online as a factual piece of proof of the only so-called birth certificate, birth record that I have because of my possession of this particular book and scroll. They're calling what I was calling the theft of my birth certificate. They're calling this actually like what word am I looking for? They're calling this like a like kind of like they just re not financed but got their hands back on their property. Essentially, is what it is. They're saying that their birth certificate and the name that I was given was their property, and they had the right to take that back, even though it was looked at as a theft. This is how these government agents move. So even though it was looked at as a theft, they have a right to take that back, which they did in a particular city that I'm not going to speak about. So I'm just taking it upon myself to prove where my actual birth record stemmed from, and even where certain documents that's in that birth certificate stemmed from, even the names in the birth certificate stemmed from. And at any time I can go and get a birth certificate. That's not the problem. The problem is that my birth certificate was put into a bet with the particular individual that wrote this particular scroll, and they put my resources up against his, and it's still going on. In the first round, he was successful. His resources won. But however, we're in the second round, and in the second round, there's going to be a showdown. And this particular showdown is going to be based upon whether or not my resources are going to supersede his resources. Yeah, can you sit it out? I'm doing something real important. Just throw it out for me. So whether or not my resources are going to supersede this guy's particular resources. And I'm saying this because it's pretty serious as far as in the conscious community. How much money I guess these particular individual made in writing of his scrolls, and how serious they took it to almost like prosecute me to get me into this bet as a sovereign. Because mind you, this is like two sovereigns going against or versing each other in this particular bet. This is serious. This particular individual that wrote the scroll, a lot of it, there's two sides to it. A lot of it was based upon real records of events that happened to people, of which myself and certain other individuals were a part of. So the people that put this up as a competition and a bet are saying this: you wrote a lot of this information in the scroll, however, it was based upon the same individual that you want to use his birth certificate to say that you had resources and investments in his name, or individuals that built certain tabernacles based upon this scroll had resources and investments in his name. So that led me to having to go out and essentially because after this bet is pretty much over now, because it dropped, two annuities dropped in my local city on the Cincinnati Reds. I told you guys about it yesterday upon my discovery of a craft that this particular scroll talks a lot about. However, I actually discovered factual information that no one ever talked about, and was able to put it into a video. And every time I put out a video, they don't want to give me donations, and they want to persecute me because they know that essentially what it is that they know that I have the information that gives proof to where a lot of this stuff comes from. And they know that if I'm putting out these particular videos, stuff like that, it's going to wake up certain people to what's really going on in the conscious community, which is a lot of secrets, a lot of plagiarism, essentially, is where I'm getting at. So it's almost to the point where they want to say that they bought out my birth record because I was born into a rich name, and they replaced that and bought that out and traded that out on the New York Stock Exchange and made billions and billions of dollars, which essentially visaed me out of my own name. And this is how I got into this in the first place. So they pronounced it dead, but I was able to pull off, through a string of ones, the purchase of a large stake of winnings in the baseball team here locally, of which I'm going to go ahead and use to the end of the year to go ahead and secure the rest of this proof, so that we can end this bet that they got between Philadelphia and Cincinnati, and a soccer match that's worth even more money. So essentially what I had to do is to claim 2 annuities out of Milwaukee, just to essentially buy a certain amount of games in this local club, baseball club, so I don't have to bet them every day. Then I have to take that and go bet that against the author of that particular scroll, because his estate has to go against my estate because we're both teachers, and they have to figure out who's worth the most. Even if we were to work together in the future, this is what you would call these secret societies, of which a lot of them are Scottish Rite actually want to do, which is real, I mean, important. You may not understand all of this, but essentially this is what it's going to come down to. So what it came down to is that this author, I'll say this, we spoke, he was given 150 years in prison, of which he brokered and turned that into a cash bond or deal that he uses, and it's worth way more than millions. It's worth probably billions of dollars and going up, that he uses to stay sovereign. So he made this deal with the government. I'm not going to go into who this person is. If you know, you know. If you are in from looking at the scroll and you know where the scroll came from, then you know. If you don't, then you got to do your research, because I'm not saying any names because it is a part of a bet. Because of a lot of what I teach, they did this in secret. His handlers took information from me, of which, like I said, was a theft at first, and gave it. They were actually working for enforcement agents. So to them, it was the reconfiscation of their goods. That's a good way to put it. And gave it to a gaming network for a bet to see who was worth the most, because they know this metaphysics is deep and it's worth billions and billions of dollars, and they say, well, this is the next level to it. We got to put you guys against each other. So I'm saying it's the Illuminati putting us against each other in a bet, of which these individuals probably don't even know what's going on, because it affects 2 different, totally different estates, of which I probably have to talk about in a very distant future. So essentially they put me up. He got 150 years. He's using that as a case under another name. He's free. And then on my side of the estate, we got gold that was supposedly confiscated by the government, of which we got back, and it's in our private sector and in certain temples. So they wanted these 2 estates to go against each other. His 150-year case, which ties a lot of land into it, going into pyramids and all of that, against gold, which was our side, the gold side, of which is why I always keep a block of gold, not a lot, but a certain piece of gold on me, because of this. And another one I have too, because of this scenario. And yeah, they don't know how this is going to end. They won the first round because of my ignorance of it. So now we're in round 2. We're going to see what's going to happen. And it's a competition of where, like, saying that you won means nothing, because we're talking about trillions and billions of dollars. Here's my other piece that I keep on me or whatever. But that's where we're at. So who knows how this is going to play out in the long, long run. But yeah, they put this guy up against me in his case. And that's what I'm going through now, to see who, you know, is going to come out with the most monetization and the most profit. And we'll go from there. Namaste.